Josh Allen loses again in the playoffs in overtime. And as you might have seen from ESPN, Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, they both had funny reports when it comes to the news of what happened with the Buffalo Bills after that game. And that is that their head coach, Sean McDermott, has been fired, as you might have also seen in today's episode title. So Buffalo loses to the Broncos 33-30. They fire Sean McDermott afterwards, but that's not the only news coming from this game. News came out on Saturday night as the Seahawks were putting belt to ass on the 49ers that Bo Nix, the starting quarterback of the Denver Broncos, suffered a broken bone in his ankle on the second to last play of overtime, and he is now out for the season. So the Broncos move on. They're playing for an AFC championship, but they're going to be without their starting quarterback as Jarrett Stidham will now take over to lead the Denver Broncos. So a lot of news there to unpack, Kevin. What was your reaction to the game, but also to McDermott being fired and Bo Nix being out for the year?
From the Bills standpoint, this is yet another coach who has been fired because their MVP quarterback doesn't play MVP football in the postseason. We had rules changed for him. This is the seventh postseason in Josh Allen's career, has yet to reach a Super Bowl. 4 turnovers, 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions. And yet the coach is the one that gets the blame. There's a lot of things that you can point to in this game. But Josh Allen, point frankly, he overthrew the game-winning touchdown. There's a lot of things that went wrong when the defense was able to have his back and forth, a turnover, get an interception, the defensive line. He turns it right back over. So there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of people to point at. I don't know if Bill McDermott or Shaun McDermott was the correct guy to kind of get the blame. But unfortunately, in the business that we cover, basketball, football, the head coach, the head of the snake, always takes the blame. When they win, it's the players doing, and when they lose, it's the coach's fault. But we've seen this movie 7 times, and every single time it ends up changing it around. They make OC changes, they make DC changes, and now they decided to make a head coach change. And the one change that I thought, usually goes with head coaches is GMs. But the GM got an upgrade, a promotion to player operations. And it's weird because this team had a lot of holes. We said coming into this playoffs that it was Josh Allen's best chance, but this is arguably the worst roster he's played with. Keon Coleman had a lot of hype coming into his career, hasn't really fell through. And their best receiver is Khalil Shakir, which no one would have even thought of before this season. Like, every time Josh Allen went to Khalil Shakir over the past 2 games, it's been a catch. The first game was 9 for 9. This game was 7 for 7. So he was that backbone to that offense. When you need something and it's not going to come from Josh Allen or James Cook, it's Khalil Shakir. They have a lot of holes on this defense. They have a lot of holes on this offense. But it's going to be interesting to kind of see where they go from now. And from the Broncos standpoint, Jake Stidham hasn't thrown a pass since 2023. He has started 7 games in his career. He's 0-7. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they play. But I'm going to be the one to see here. If you guys are watching on the podcast, the stream, you see an 86 jersey. Nick Foles led us to that Super Bowl. So you guys are NFL players. He can do it. Why not? As long as he can get through this week, he'll then have 2 weeks to prepare for the Super Bowl. So this week is a fast turnaround, yes. But he was one of the guys saying, I believe I'm a starting quarterback in the NFL. All backups say that, of course. But, now that it's his time to shine, he's going to get a chance to do it. Like I said, we've seen it before. So can the Broncos rally around, and can that defense really carry them? It's going to be interesting to see. The Patriots are a hell of a team, and we'll cover that later on here in the episode. But Josh Allen should be getting a lot more blame. I know McDermott is the big headline, but a lot of people need to start looking at Josh Allen differently because we put him in this top tier of quarterbacks. And everything goes his way. They change his rules. No Mahomes, no Pat. The list goes on and on and on. He continuously doesn't get it done.
Something I want to highlight real quickly, we will get to this later in the episode because I don't want to interrupt this block of recapping the NFL divisional round. But as Cousin Cordell says in our YouTube comments, Saleh going to the Titans, aka 49ers defensive coordinator. Robert Saleh is going to become the new head coach of the Tennessee Titans, as Adam Schefter just reported 3 minutes ago, says ESPN sources Titans are working to finalize a deal to hire 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh as their head coach. Saleh spent Monday in Tennessee with the Titans, and the two sides impressed each other enough to move forward together. So we will get to that a little bit later in today's episode, probably after we preview the AFC Championship games. And we got to hear from our guy Toddy, who is yet to arrive. And so hopefully the Podfather is able to join us later to talk about that news. But Kaz, if you could, please give us your reaction to the Broncos beating the Bills 33-30 in overtime, and the fact that Jarrett Stidham is now going to be leading the way for the Denver Broncos in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I mean, Bo played like how we all knew Bo could play. Sean Payton being a coach who's been there before. I think I said this last week on the podcast, but if not, I'll say it now. When you've been there and you've done that, you kind of understand the way that the game goes, the flow of the game. You really good head coaches, they call their best games in during the big games, and I felt like Sean Payton did a really good job of keeping his guys very well prepared, very poised. The defense played absolutely lights out, but that doesn't say much because even though it's been a few years, people forget Josh Allen. He's known for turnovers, man. The dude he's a pick merchant. He won the MVP last year, which I've said time and time again, very questionable. I think it should have been Lamar, but it's whatever. But no more than 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, we were talking about Josh Allen being one of the worst quarterbacks when it comes to throwing the football, because he doesn't protect the football. And then the Josh Allen of old, we'll call it, definitely made a comeback on the biggest stage of his career. So I don't think that they were gonna. I did pick them to win, but after seeing the way that he played, I had the Bills going all the way. Now that Philly's not there, I think my original prediction was Philly, Bills in the Super Bowl. But seeing the way that he played against the Broncos, even if they did win, I probably would not have them winning the Super Bowl. I probably wouldn't even have them making the Super Bowl. But you're seeing it all over. You're seeing the headlines, and you're seeing a lot of fans kind of, not even just fans, also people that have a good following, or they work for ESPN, or like Cam Newton on First Take. He was saying it's time to really have that real conversation about Josh Allen. The resume is there, we see it, and we can move the goalpost and blame this, that, and the other. And I'm a Josh Allen guy. I like the guy. I like him as a quarterback. I think he's a fun guy to watch, but nobody is exempt from criticism, especially someone who is an Eagles fan, who our quarterback gets some of the worst criticism. And there's been other quarterbacks like Lamar, and there's other quarterbacks like, like I'll even throw in Dak there for a little bit, where, they get criticized for these big moments. And some of it's warranted, some of it's not. And I think it's time for us to stop avoiding what reality is, and that is Josh Allen does not play well. There's people out there that's like, there's 11 guys on a football field, the quarterback shouldn't get all the blame. Okay, we can have that argument. There's people who are about X's and O's, or people like myself. I'm a player watcher. I watch what they do and make my assumption and judgment off of that alone. And there's people who just, hey, well, he's the MVP, or hey, his team sucks. We've heard every excuse when it comes to Josh Allen, and one thing that we can't shy away from is very similar to what Dak Prescott does. And it's when they're in the playoffs, what happens to their stats? Why is it that you can put up these tremendous stats in the regular season, but when the playoffs come around, and on top of that, sometimes you're playing some of the same teams that you've already seen in the regular season? Why is it that your stats dwindle? And it's not just, they don't just dwindle, it's significantly worse. At some point, you got to look at it for what it is. It may not be only Josh Allen, but he's definitely not exempt from criticism. It was a hard fought game, and it's not like they got blown out or anything like that. But it's like, the fact that you lost by 3, and you had the stat lines you had. You're fumbling the ball in crunch time. You're throwing the interceptions. It's like you don't have those plays, you win that game, man. The ball's in your hands when they need you the most, and you fumble. Like not literally, but I mean like just like you fumble the bag, man. Like when they need you the most, the overthrow, that's a big miss. You can't ignore that. You cannot ignore that. If that was any other quarterback, they're getting stoned on the streets. Okay. If God forbid, if Jalen Hurts scrambles and fumbles like that and lose the ball, I'm just saying I can only use my quarterback as a reference because I watch every last one of his games, every last snap. Josh Allen just deserves a lot of criticism right now. And again, this is coming from a fan. I like him. I think he's an awesome football player. He is very fun to watch. But that game's on him. And shout out to the Broncos for their defense for showing up and pretty much embarrassed. They embarrassed them. They did. We can point the finger at James Cook. We can point the finger at Dawson Knox, Dalton Cage, Khalil Shakir. Well, they're not good enough. They're not good enough. I saw plenty of plays where they made plays. And like Kevin just said, Khalil Shakir, he's 100% last 2 games in receptions. God, I don't remember last time I saw an Eagles player go 6 for 6 or 9 for 9. You know what I mean? And we have, hell, our third string receiver is probably just as good as Khalil Shakir. So it's like the guys are there making plays. He has the playmakers. He had the leading rusher in the league as well, too. Let's not forget about that. We got to look at who is the main culprit, and I think it's Josh Allen. So Shaun McDermott, did he deserve to be fired? Maybe, whatever. But on top of that, we need to be criticizing Josh Allen. He's had the teams, he's had the players, he's had the defense at one point. Look where we're at. So perfect opportunity for him to go to the Super Bowl, and he fumbled.
Yeah, because I was right there with you picking the Bills to get all the way to the Super Bowl. I picked them to win it all from the start because of that opportunity that the Bills had in front of them with no Lamar, no Patrick Mahomes, a.k.a. the boogeyman, no Joe Burrow. The AFC seemed to be wide open, and yet the Bills get eliminated in the divisional round. Now joining us is none other than the Podfather, Mr. Jaevon Tutty, to give us his reaction to the Broncos beating the Bills 33-30 in overtime.
Josh Allen, what the fuck are you doing? what are you doing, brother? Like, my brother in Christ, this is your opportunity to get the job. I mean, I just think he had a really bad game. I'm not going to jump off the ship and say, oh, he's Dak, like somebody on this podcast. I just sometimes when he has the ball in his hand and it's like, it's what he's known for and it's what got him here to like the point that he is now, a former MVP, obviously. His style of play has just been very backyard footballish, and he's going to live by it and he's going to die by it. And he definitely died by it this past game. It was a very back and forth game. Broncos kind of took a commanding lead early on. Buffalo figured out ways to get back into the game, but Josh Allen was not really helping them. He was, but he was also hurting them at the same time. And I kind of go back. I like to refer to Lamar Jackson's game last year in the playoffs when he had those 2 interceptions, but he had the opportunity to kind of to go down and tie the game, but they had dropped the. That's crazy.
Drop the ringtone.
Adam Schefter news. What's going on, Toddy? What's going on?
I was what was I talking about? Yeah, so last year when Lamar had the opportunity to tie the game basically at the end of the game against the Bills, I think that was the divisional round, and then it was Mark Andrews that dropped the 2-point conversion. They wouldn't have been in that same position without Lamar Jackson. Same thing with this game here, and really, really insane play at the end of the game. I think it was Shavers that had the interception catch. Was it a catch? Was it an interception? I'm seeing a lot of side-by-sides, and it kind of looks like he has the ball in his possession with his knee down. And then basically after that little frame-by-frame shot of him having his knee down, with the ball in his possession, it ends up getting snatched out of his hands as he rolls over. So they didn't really review that as much as they should have, because in overtime usually everything is kind of like a booth review, so it's kind of a bang bang play, and they didn't really get it. Buffalo didn't really have a chance to challenge that. So that you could argue that was a catch. It was kind of usually when the ball and the receiver and the corner usually have, when they catch the ball kind of like at the same time, usually the ball goes to the offensive player. But in this case, they called it an interception, which was kind of strange. I thought it was a catch, in my opinion, but that was just one of the many plays that you could argue. Not all games usually come down to one play, but Josh Allen just has to take care of the ball better. I think moving forward, obviously, Bo Nix is out with a freak injury. I really don't know when the play occurred. At some point in time, because
That was the last play.
Kind of looking back at it, it seemed like he didn't really seem like he had like a limp or anything. Even in his post game interview, like he seemed like he was fine. So kind of hard to really pinpoint when it actually happened, but that's gotta suck. I mean, going to the AFC Championship, this was the last time basically since Peyton Manning was your quarterback, being the AFC Championship, hosting the AFC Championship, that is. And now you got Jared Stidham taking snaps. Hasn't thrown a ball in 2 years. But guess what? He's playing in the AFC Championship game. So, as far as the Bills go, I know that they fired McDermott earlier today. We'll probably get into that a little later. But Josh Allen needs coach. So, very interesting to see how both teams look moving forward. Oh, go ahead.
I apologize. I just wanted to say we're merging McDermott in right here, right now. So what was your reaction to that news?
I mean, it's kind of run its course a little bit. I would like to see Josh Allen have an offensive-minded head coach. There's a bunch of guys out there that are kind of similar in style to Sean McDermott. Like, I think if they go out and hire like a Mike Tomlin, he's like a very similar-ish type of coach. I don't know if Mike Tomlin is going to coach. I think he really actually wants to take a year off. He's been coaching since I was a child. So, I mean,
19 or 20 plus years, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, he might actually want to take a break. I mean, if there are other defensive-minded guys out there, I honestly have no idea where the Bills are going to go as far as offensive head coaching. It's really tough because McDermott's not a bad coach. I think he's a pretty good coach. I just think his time kind of ran its course. They just kept hitting the wall, obviously, going up against Patrick Mahomes every single year. And a lot of people felt like this was the year for them to kind of make that leap. And they kind of limp into the playoffs a little bit with them being the 6th seed and, having the opportunity of there's no Patrick Mahomes, there's no Lamar Jackson, and there's no Joe Burrow. So this should be a cakewalk, right? And they come up short. I do think this Bills organization needs to build around Josh Allen a little bit better. For him to not really have any type of receivers, it's a little bit alarming. He's thrown it to guys like Khalil Shakir, who's usually like a 3, and Brandon Cooks, who wasn't even in the league a few weeks ago. And then Keon Coleman is like in and out of the lineup, but he was supposed to be a first-round receiver a couple of years ago. There are weeks where he's just a healthy scratch. So, I mean, I think the defense is pretty good for the most part. I just think their offense just needs to be a little bit better. I get that he makes a ton of money, but at the same time, he should be able to have some type of weapon. Obviously, there's James Cook back there, but he didn't really. He played well. I just think sometimes his ball security can be tested. I do think this Bills team has a lot to improve on moving forward.
Yeah, the one thing that I'll say in response to the McDermott conversation is you mentioned Mike Tomlin, and I agree with your point that he may be a great option, but ultimately he is a defensive coach. Like you were saying, the Bills probably need to go more towards an offensive coach. And then, as Kevin mentioned, Mike Tomlin was the head coach of the Steelers for 19 years, and he was a defensive coordinator before that. Most recently, before his Steelers tenure with the Minnesota Vikings, he was their defensive coordinator. So he's been coaching in the NFL for 20 plus years, and he definitely wants to take a year off. That's what it seems like. He'll probably go do TV. I saw a clip of him watching his daughter compete for the Georgia Bulldogs in gymnastics, and someone highlighted on social media that Mike Tomlin looks the most rested that he has been in 2 decades. He looks like he finally got a full night of sleep, because even you think back to that loss in the AFC wildcard round, the game ended at like midnight and he was back at the facility by 5 a.m. So the dude's probably been sleeping for like 3 to 4 hours for years, at least during the season. And so Mike Tomlin, and also something to note about Mike Tomlin is similar to Sean Payton when he retired or stepped away from the New Orleans Saints. And then when he came back to become the coach of the Denver Broncos, they had to trade compensation for him because he was still under contract with the Saints. That's the same case with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's still under contract. And so whoever wants to hire Mike Tomlin would have to give the Steelers something to hire him.